Hello everyone, this is a psychic prediction video for March 2022. When I first tune into March as the month, as a vibration, as a color, as an energy, what I get is yellow primarily. I also get a little bit of this green color, which is kind of like a fresh growth type of energy. But I also get this yellow color. And it also had this energetic quality of slick, slippery, as if you're going to slide all over the place within the month. So this could be one of those months that are kind of just all over the place. And also this quality of plastic. And when I tuned more into what this is about, what I got was that there's some sort of fakeness to the month that will be revealed in the coming months, like maybe 2 months, maybe 1 or 2 months from now. We'll start to see how a lot of the things that was happening in March will turn out to be, kind of surface level only. So, March is going to have a lot of wild directions, things just constantly changing. I got that there's this constant change to the month, yet at the very same time, there's this holding of a consistent form. So, it's like constant change, like things are constantly morphing around, but at the very same time, they're staying as one form consistently and not changing into something different. It's like everything's rearranging itself, but it's still staying the same. I think the best way I can kind of relate this is the element of water. And Bruce Lee has a lot of quotes about this. So there's an element of this month that seems like that very strange, confusing, all over the place, kind of trippy, for lack of a better word. Or maybe that's the perfect word. I don't know. But trippy could be one way of explaining it. This month, or March, also has a quality of despair to it. And this is related to the war going on with Russia invading Ukraine, but it also has to do with the energy of the month as well, unrelated to that. And this may seem almost contradictory, but along with this despair, there's also a quality of healing going on for this month. And to kind of make that make sense, I would say that this month is really about fixing old broken patterns. And so these are things that have just been dysfunctional, or that you've kind of, like energies in your aura that you've kind of pushed out to the side, to the outermost layer behind you, or somewhere where it's not really affecting you too much. It's kind of like you've put some bubble around some sort of energy in your aura that you don't want to deal with and just discarded it. But those bubbles are taking up space, and they're starting to burst back open so that you deal with them. It's kind of like spring cleaning, you could relate it to. So in some sense, we don't have a choice. We're being forced to face these old patterns, these old outdated patterns, and change them. And I think that is actually what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. On some level, it can kind of relate to that, where it's kind of an old pattern that used to work in wars strategically in the past, but it's not really working out for Russia that great anymore. Um, so we'll see what happens with that. Anyways, March there's a lot of hard work involved. So, like I was saying, it's about breaking up these stagnant patterns that just aren't, working anymore, or that we're trying to ignore from the past. And the way I saw this was a basketball player sweating profusely as he's going across the court, and it's like the lights are flashing, like people taking photos, and it's chaotic. And there's a sense of war because he's, you know, in competition, but he's just focusing on one step after the next, and it's just one step at a time because he has to be so focused on what he's doing. And it's like if he tries to look too far ahead in time, he's going to pass out. Now, that's kind of the energy of this month. So if you're trying to look too far ahead, you might just get overwhelmed and pass out. So it's good to just know that you're going to have to put the hard work in this month and just go one step at a time. So when I tune into Joe Biden for this month, I see him getting a break in the pressure. I know I've been saying for at least last month and a lot so far in the last year or so that Joe Biden's been, experiencing difficulty and change of plans. But it looks like this month he's finally getting that break, at least from the public eye. And it looks like he's doing well in that regard. I do see him being very lively and having more energy. Also, going back to my 2022, the full year psychic prediction video, where I said that there's something about Joe Biden becoming very influential, kind of like Mark Zukerberg, and having a lot of say within things. Gaining influence, becoming very popular, even though Mark Zuckerberg is not very popular, so maybe that was a bad example. But what I meant by that was that he has a lot of power over social media on some level, although it's in a slightly different way. But what I do see coming up here for March is Joe Biden gaining a lot of influence over the political realm, the geopolitics of the world, and him being kind of like a big spokesperson for the corporations of the world, that being the countries, similar to Mark Zuckerberg is within the social online stuff, whatever you want to call it, social media, I guess. So I do see Biden being praised. Although I also see at the same time there being a lot of talk of financial problems for the U.S. coming up in March. But I still see him being praised regardless. And so it seems like he's kind of reaching these hardships, but he's doing it with ease for the month of March, at least. When I tune into Russia, this is kind of a weird metaphor here, but the thing that came to my mind was like the water breaks. And that's the way that I interpreted that energy, the information. And the tanks pour in, and I think we've actually already seen a little bit of that starting to happen already. But that's what I really see first thing when I tune into March for Russia. Lots of death. And I see this happening for another 1 to 2 months. Although I also see it on some level slowing down as time goes on. However, there was one thing that was very interesting to me, and this was a very extreme image that I got of Putin being very, very angry in the coming months. Not this month, but maybe next month or maybe 2 months from now. But I think it's going to be like kind of in between next month maybe towards the end of next month, somewhere around there, I see Putin getting very, very angry, and it almost looks like cartoonish because of how angry he looks. Um, and there's a possibility that there could be a country interfering um, in April, around April. Um, and I'm getting that this could be a country from the north of Ukraine, possibly. Um, that's a little speculative, but I got a sense that there could be some sort of incident like that that really triggers Putin. But I don't see him, you know, necessarily doing anything too drastic either. But I'll keep that in mind for next month's reading. Um, the way that I see this ending, though, is I see Russia having a lot more land taken. So before I said this before in previous predictions that I saw Russia gaining a lot of land on Ukraine, or gaining some land. But now when I tune into it, now I see it being like more land. Um, but not necessarily winning and like taking over the entire country. I see them winning on some level, but not like 100% because it seems like this battle is going to continue. There's going to be forces still around fighting Russia within Ukraine for a while, and so I don't really see there being like a clear point where Russia wins. So I'm not going to say that I see Russia winning, but I don't necessarily see Russia losing the war because I do see them gaining land. And the borders of where Ukraine and Russia end and begin is going to be a lot different. However, for March, I do see Putin being much more calm. I see him with a pen and paper. It's like he's, being diplomatic, fighting with the pen rather than the sword himself. Although I also see him being disappointed, and I think we've kind of already seen this a little bit actually playing out on the news, where they're saying that it's not going as well as he would have liked. But I'm seeing this continuing on, or just being a general theme for the month of March. It's not really going quite as he planned, and the war will continue. I don't see the war stopping. I see it continuing, but there could be like stagnant parts to it. Like there's, it's not going as fast as he would like. I do see Russian troops receiving food and partying. And this is kind of like they're almost off duty, like this has to do with the stagnation of it. Like they're getting food and they're partying and they're not really engaging in combat. I see Putin working things out internationally with other countries, but he's still scheming. But he's not really gonna press the kill button, so to speak. I don't see that happening for the month of March. But there seems to be some sort of international, not necessarily conflict, but international communication going on that could be a little deceptive coming from Putin. So I do see from March the rest of the Russian troops being deployed, or at least almost all of them, if not all of them. But like I said, some sort of standstill within their progress. And I specifically got the CIA, some sort of pressure from the CIA that is getting the best of Putin. I don't know exactly what this is, but it was clearly the CIA. Um, there could be a false hope of the war ending, but it would only be a minor pause in the conflict, and I'm seeing more international conflict happening. I also was seeing Russian warships involved in international issues of some kind. So this would be like in the ocean. This could this is probably just about where they're allowed to be in the ocean, and some sort of conflict around that. Not necessarily a battle or a war, though. When I tune into Ukraine, the energy vibration that I get from that is green, um, similar to the month color overall. I saw green separate, and then I saw yellow, and they're kind of both there. But this is, again, like a kind of like springtime type of vibration. So I know that sounds contradictory, but I think that has more to do with their spirit than the physical circumstances of the country. So major cities being bombed is what I see for March, which kind of already just started yesterday, but regardless, that's what I'm seeing for March. But I'm still seeing troops, Ukrainian troops, holding their ground. This doesn't necessarily mean holding their ground where they were, but I see them moving around. I see them operating out of more hidden locations, and leaving the city, dispersing into little groups throughout different areas that are, like in the woods and kind of hidden, a little more safe, a little less easy to bomb. So I guess that would be a good strategy, so that they don't know where they are, as to bomb them as easily. So when I tune into Russia as a country, as an energy and vibration, I see them as red, very red, and I get the sense that they're declining for March. Yet I also get the sense that they are, well, it was like a fast drop at the beginning of the month, and then for the rest of the month, it's like this survivalist energy kicks in, and it's like a doomsday prepper who has everything they need. So it's like, even though everything just kind of crashes down and starts declining, there's still this survivalist, like everything's prepped, like they've got everything they need to survive through the harsh winter on their own. So I do see that. So at least for the Russian citizens who are not involved in this, that is a positive for them, at least. Um, I do see them. I do see Russia as a country pulling in resources, and it's kind of like energy cords with other countries, and they're like pulling in everything they can, and they're burning their bridges. They're taking whatever they can get. They're like, okay, now's the time that we need this. Now we're gonna take this. Now we're gonna take that, and it's a desperate situation, and they don't really necessarily care if it hurts them in the future, because they need it right now, and it's more important to them to have it now than it is how it will affect them in the future. And I got the sense that this is like a cat that is upside down and dropped and falls, but then at the very end of the month, the cat flips around and lands on his feet. And so they seem to maintain themselves throughout the month, economically and just in general. And so I got the sense that Russia, the energy is that they're in it for the long haul, and they, on some level, know what they're doing. Ending the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, Going back to just everything else going on in the world. One just totally random thing that I saw Prince Andrew being called out by the general public. Um, and just in case you don't know, he was just recently involved in a case, human trafficking case with Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, where he was said to be basically prostituting out a underage girl through their network. And I see him being called out by citizens March this month coming up here. So, what is this month good for? This month, energetically and generally speaking, it's good for being stern and standing up for yourself. And when I was tuning into this, like, and I was looking at what is March about, I saw like March written out in letters, and it was the yellow color that I was describing, and it was like slamming down. And it was like, and it would go up and like, and like, and it was like as if it was moving closer and closer, and it was like cutting things off. So it was like there's energy cords connecting you to different things, and the month is just like slamming down, chopping that off, kind of like a knife. It's disconnecting you from, in some sense, it's connecting you more to yourself by disconnecting you from other things, from the external, so you can be more in the present, I guess you could say. So this has a lot to do with being punctual, because it's slamming down. It's very precise. You have to be at the right time, at the right place at the right time. There's a lot of order and discipline. So this month is good for being punctual, as well as order and discipline. Being all you can be is something that came up for me. Cutting out the BS from your life, as I kind of explained. Thinking about monetary situations is also a very positive thing to do this month. I think last month I said that was a negative thing. So this month it's kind of flipped around. But especially I want to highlight being stern and standing up for yourself. That seems to be a theme for March. So what is March 2022 bad for? Intoxication. It's not a good month to be sloppy or intoxicated or just kind of like blurry vision, not really, focused. So you really want to be clear this month, like I was already saying. Also not a good month for not looking before you leap. So you want to be really thorough this month, because you could get yourself tangled up in some, where you don't want to be. It could be not ideal. It's you want to be precise again. This month is also not good for faith in some sense of that statement. And that's not to say that having faith is bad in this month altogether. But what I mean by that is that just having faith in something, having hope, maybe that's a better word, but just having your faith in something isn't gonna cut it for this month. This month demands hard work and discipline in order for the faith to work. And so sometimes energetically, faith and intentions work really well. And that's not to say that they don't work really well for March, but it's more so to say that this month is more about the hard work and tweaking things to get them to work out strategically for you. That's what this month is about. It's kind of like facing the shadows, shadow work, and dealing with the things that you don't normally want to deal with. So just having an intention and having faith, that's kind of, up in the clouds not really gonna work too great for this month energetically. Not by itself, at least. So to summarize, March is all about getting things in order, weeding out the BS, grabbing life by the horns, taking command of your life. So life can come down really hard on you this month. And part of that is about cutting your cords, or you could say metaphorically cutting the chains that are chained to you so that you're more free to do what you want. Being precise is important within this. One thing to be careful for is keep yourself, or check yourself, and I mean that as in keep your nervous system in check and be aware of how your nervous system is handling everything going on, and really take the time for self-care if that's necessary. So this is the month to clear the BS from your life. And as one last thing to say here, as advice for the month, keep your eye on the prize, because it's a very productive month. If you are precise enough to make it work for you, it can be a very clearing, cleansing month. So if you like this video, you can always give it a thumbs up. I appreciate that. You can check out my website where I do private readings if you would like a private reading. And thank you for watching, and have a great day.